A saturated fast food market in poor neighborhoods. Fast food in today's culture is unsurprisingly within our direct access and perhaps surprisingly part of a multi-billion-dollar industry. In fact, within the United States alone, the fast food industry is forecasted to exceed $210 billion by 2018. Although these numbers show signs of a prosperous and well-established industry, it is, however, not without its drawbacks. Poor nutrition can be attributed to a regular and overconsumption of fast foods which contain high levels of salt and sugar. Individuals of a lower socioeconomic status face many disadvantages due to poor conditions which include but are not limited to a lower household income and limitations in their access to outside resources. It is argued that individuals of this class are at a greater risk of developing unhealthy food choices based on a saturated fast food retail environment. This can be further broken down into three main streams of thought. First, long-term eating habits are developed from a young and influential age. There is a need to explore their food environments given the probable long-term health consequences they may experience due to poor nutrition. The denser the fast food environment is proven to be in low-income areas, the more likely they are to consume unhealthy foods originating from these sources. Therefore, unhealthy eating habits are instilled in these individuals who have lived in poorer areas for extended periods of time. The second point of debate takes into account the variety or the lack thereof in the types of alternate food sources. In lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, few grocery stores exist. Farmers markets and supermarkets, however, have been identified as a solution to increase access to healthy foods within poorer neighborhoods. Supermarkets may be located at great distances, and many of these individuals do not have a practical means of transportation. The third debate addresses the expense of eating healthier, nutritious foods. Consumers of this status often cite high prices as constraints to healthy eating. The retail landscape of poorer neighborhoods caters to these low-income families because energy-dense foods often represent the lowest cost option. It is also important to note that food deserts typically have higher access costs. Fresh produce entering food deserts may be marked up to compensate for the increased fee. The basis of this discussion will argue based on the last two approaches. It disputes that the low income of individuals within these communities will prompt them to seek cost-effective selections of food within easy access. The increase in the number of fast food restaurants is reflective of the needs and demands of this particular demographic. This, however, can be challenged because a retail-dominated market can also be described based on its operational landscape. The scarcity of supermarkets within poorer communities can sometimes be explained by amplified access costs. The nature of their neighborhoods within this discussion is advantageous to the fast food industry because it enables operation at a substantially lower cost. For example, the smaller the space required, the easier it is to find available space, the cheaper the leasing fee. These households have limited purchasing power and are sensitive to fluctuations and high-priced items. With increased access costs and an increased cost of fresh produce, they will likely develop unhealthy food choices based on what they are able to afford: fast food. Given the current obesity epidemic, further information and research into the relationship with foods, both healthy and unhealthy, will further address or bring forth ideas on how to approach such a concern. Research conducted suggests that policy restructuring may be the first plausible step to address this broader issue at hand. Food choice is influenced through much more than our individual preference as examined in this argument. It is influenced by the environment in which we live as well as our inclination to gravitate towards the readily accessible. Residents of low socioeconomic neighborhoods are an example of this. The result of a saturated fast food market, the low income of individuals within these communities will seek cost-effective food choices within easy access. They are therefore at an increased likelihood of developing unhealthy food choices.
created using Powtoon.